Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Croydon Business Webinar. It's a lovely sunny day out there, so I'm grateful to all of you that have decided that you still want to come and listen to this webinar, or maybe you're doing it from your garden, which sounds wonderful. It's great to see you all. We're back again this morning for another one of our business advice webinars. We're talking this morning about a really important subject. Is right now the right time to think about starting a business? Many would say is ever the right time to start a business, but right now, when we're in the middle of this pandemic and we are all currently in lockdown, although looking to come out of lockdown, is this the right time to be thinking about taking that leap of faith and going it alone? We've got a great expert panel with us, as always, this morning to give you that advice, and we really do want to encourage you to engage with them this morning. It's about hearing from you. It's about giving you the opportunity to answer your questions. The great thing about this webinar is you do not need to hang on the end of a phone waiting for an answer. You do not need to send an email and maybe hope that someone might get back to you at some point in the future. You can talk here right now to our panel, and you can do that in a number of ways this morning. You can use the chat button that you'll see in the bottom of your screen. Just go on to that, type in a question or a comment, or share something with the audience, so you can use the chat button to engage with us. You can also use the Q&A button, so do please put your questions to our panelists, and if you're feeling really brave, you can wave your virtual hand at me this morning, and you can ask to come into the conversation, and if I see you doing that, I will bring you live into the conversation for you to ask your question direct. So please do start thinking about all those niggling doubts you might have, or queries or questions. How do you do it? And be prepared to put those to our panel today. So I'm going to introduce our panel to you all. Some of you will know some of these people and others are new. But first of all, we're hugely grateful to Emma Jones, MBE, the founder of Enterprise Nation, the person who has probably experienced an awful lot about entrepreneurship, about the ups and downs, and is running an amazing service in terms of looking at how she can support entrepreneurs up and down the country. So Emma, thanks very much for joining us this morning. We also have with us Jane Knight. Jane runs Successful Mums and has over the last few years brought 6,000 women and men and carers back to work, and giving them advice and help on how they might do that from home whilst they juggle with bringing up a young family. And many of you are at home right now juggling with bringing up a young family, as well as school homeschooling and all the other things that we're having to contend with at the moment. So Jane can give us some insight into that. Welcome to Ian Harris. Ian Harris has been in business for well over 40 years and has more recently started up the Croydon Business Hub, which is a social enterprise which is aimed at supporting people who want to come into business. And pre-lockdown, he was running a series of actual networking events that would bring people together, where he could offer advice and guidance, and he will be sharing his expertise with us as well. Also with us this morning is Ellie Edwards. Ellie runs the Advisory Collective, and she can really help around how to, what the steps might be needed. She can share her experience. She's been doing this nationally and internationally, particularly in the tech sector. So if you're thinking of that as an area, then Ellie can help us with that today. And then also someone who's no stranger to Croydon, Fintan O'Toole, who wears many hats in the borough, but today is wearing the hat of the chair of the board of Croydon Business Venture, or as we now know it, Startup Croydon. Now, Croydon Business Venture has been going for well over 35 years. It's probably one of the oldest established social enterprises that was formed way back then to help businesses to start up and to help them through those early days. And still today in Croydon, Startup Croydon is providing that service, and Fintan can give an update on how you can access that. So that is an amazing group of people with a great collective knowledge. Please use that this morning by, as I say, talking to us and talking to them. But I want to start by coming over to Emma. Emma, these are unprecedented times. You've seen a lot, I'm sure, over the years of of ups and downs, recessions, etc. But just tell us a little bit about what you're seeing now and you know, how you're finding it out there.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. Good morning, and thanks so much for having me on. So yes, as Catherine mentioned, it makes me feel very old, but I've seen a lot of things when it comes to kind of small business and small business reactions to externalities in the market, but we've never, of course, seen anything quite like this. So as Catherine mentioned, Enterprise Nation is an organisation that helps people start and grow their own business. Pre-coronavirus, the way in which we offered that support was through lots of physical events. So we would run 300 plus offline events each year, but we also have a very dynamic online platform where businesses can come and get lots of questions answered. So coronavirus hit, and I will never forget, actually, this was probably late February, but I had an email from a real good Enterprise Nation champion in Oxfordshire. He's called William Barton, and he's a big enterprise supporter. And he wrote to me and he said, Emma, I've noticed that you're not really covering this coronavirus thing that's happening. And I kind of wrote back to him and said, okay, fair enough, I'll look into it. And I will just never forget that moment, because at the time you literally thought it's something happening in China. It's not going to come here, but okay, we owe a service to our small businesses to alert them to the fact that this is happening. Anyway, of course, 8 weeks on, and we then very quickly set up a coronavirus support hub on Enterprise Nation, and the business has never been so busy, and we've been going for 13 years. So the team have done an amazing job. They responded. We introduced live chat. We update government guidance on a daily, if not hourly basis. And essentially, we spent the first kind of 6 or 7 weeks responding to thousands of businesses around eligibility for government support schemes. So businesses essentially kind of saying, can I get cash grants? Can I furlough myself? If I furlough myself, can I do any work? So the first 6 weeks was all around, let us respond to your questions, because there was quite a bit of confusion. The phase that we're now moving into, and this has been the phase for the past couple of weeks, is more businesses now saying, I want to proactively trade through the next 6 to 12 months. How can you help me do this? And there's kind of 3 groups of businesses that we're seeing at the moment. There are the startups. So to that point, is this a good time to start? It definitely is. So we're seeing a huge appetite of people coming onto the platform and searching, I want to start a business. Reasons being, people have got time on their hands if they're on furlough. They've got technology at their disposal because we're all online and using technology to get started. So we're seeing this huge appetite again for people saying, do I ever want to return to an office? Do I want to go back to corporate life? Or shall I use this as the opportunity to stay working from home and be my own boss? So that's kind of one category. We've then got a group of businesses who just want to survive and just keep growing. And for those businesses, the biggest thing that they need and want at the moment is information on how to do more online. So we're hosting, for instance, daily webinars at the moment called Lunch and Learn. Every time we do anything on Instagram, on Facebook, today's topic is how to pivot to e-commerce. Businesses just can't get enough of this content on how they improve their online presence. So that's kind of the grow. And then there is a third group of businesses who want to turbocharge their growth. So they have grown through coronavirus, they've been selling online. And actually for those businesses, and from a government perspective, government does see this as quite a unique moment to be able to encourage businesses to do more online, because there's a group of businesses who say, could this be the time that I work on the business and do things like adopt cloud accounting software, use things like Slack and Trello to make sure that my team are productive? So that kind of start, grow and turbo are kind of the 3 key audiences. And our job now at Enterprise Nation is just to move into doing what we do best, which is making sure those businesses get all the support they need to keep on trading.
Great, that's really good to hear. So you're a resounding yes, now is a good time to start a business. I'm going to come to Jane because whilst it might be a good time to start a business, the practicalities of that are not always that straightforward, and you must see that a lot in the business that you're running.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with what Emma's saying. I really echo her points. And now is a good time, because I think it's about having this platform. Hopefully this won't ever happen again. So it's sort of really using this platform in a positive way to put that idea actually into practice. But you're right, the reality is, particularly a lot of my clients, they will be homeschooling as well. So it's around that juggle. And even though it's not possible for everybody, I really believe if you can get yourself into a routine, if you can embrace the homeschooling in a way that utilize those skills, because if you're teaching, if you're homeschooling, that is another skill that you can use within your business to give you the confidence to actually make it happen. And I think it's about small steps. You don't have to do it all in one go. So it's around deciding really almost where would you like to be in a year's time, which sounds quite grand, but then actually working backwards, because then that sometimes can give you the sort of headspace to make a plan and just take small steps towards what you want to do. And I think it's around looking at the opportunities. We touched on this earlier when we were chatting before we came on live, around looking at the organisations. As Emma said, you know, there's lots of organisations that are doing really well, really thriving. What are they doing, and how could you potentially be within that supply chain somehow and help them? Because they will still need to be operating. None of us do this on our own. They will be reaching out to other organisations to help their business thrive. So how could you possibly fit in there? So in answer to your question, Catherine, I think it's around taking small steps every day. And I think personally, sort of the homeschooling, it's a balance, isn't it? It's
so certainly that small steps message I think is important given where we are now, because actually every day is a different day, isn't it? None of us actually know what's going to happen tomorrow, and none of us, from the government down, let's be honest, we are literally having to take this a day as it comes. So actually taking that mantra of not trying to do everything at once and actually working through in a logical way, one small step at a time, is probably good advice right now, because it's
overwhelming, can't it, Catherine? I think you can feel so overwhelmed, and then you get to 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock when you sit down on the sofa and you think, well, actually I haven't done anything. So even if you have a list, and even if you just do 3 really small things on that list, it might just be picking up the phone and speaking to somebody that does what you want to do and say, can we have a 5-minute chat? How did you start off? Because people are so generous, people want to help. And if there's an organisation that's doing what you want to do and they are 3, 5, 6, 10 years ahead of you, the chances are they know what you're going to go through, so they'll be willing to help.
I think that's absolutely right about collaboration, and let's be honest, that's why we're all on this call today. It's about collaborating, it's about supporting each other. Vincent, I'm going to come to you, because obviously collaboration at Startup Croydon is something that you've been doing for all those, not you personally, but Startup Croydon has been doing for all those years. What are those small steps, and how can Startup Croydon help with that, and what are you seeing in terms of the appetite at the moment for businesses to look at, or individuals to look at starting in business?
Okay, so several things there. Let's look at appetite first. And at Startup Croydon, we're still seeing a number of people coming through on an almost daily basis, asking for advice either through the website or phoning up and getting in contact and looking for the next steps. Because as you're aware, we do this 3-day course in better times when people can gather together, and that's had a regular attendance over the last 12 months. And we haven't been able to directly replace it, but we've still been able to offer that advice on a one-to-one basis. What's been really encouraging is for the 12 people who've been started on our Building Business Horizons course at the beginning of the year, which was largely designed to be classroom-based. We've actually been able to turn it all around, and the team, Jeff and Anna, have delivered it superbly, taking advantage of Zoom, as we are now, and GoTo meetings and GoTo training, all good software platforms that have helped there. So the appetite is still there to do it. I guess the personal involvement that I've seen with people looking to set up at the moment are people trying to grasp opportunities. That's what entrepreneurial, the approach is all about. And the difficulty in grabbing opportunities at this time is some of them are very fleeting. So as an example, a business was looking at doing something with testing and being able to perhaps to give results to companies and arranging the testing on their behalf. and putting a charge to it, and then overnight the government changes the games because everybody can get a test in effect for free. So a business model can appear to be there and appear to be attractive for the short term, but you need to, I think, think a little bit about the longevity and think about, yes, there's some good opportunism for the short term to take advantage of people being stuck at home, but to build a business with a foundation, you need to think as well about what will happen to your business when we come out, as I'm sure we will do, come out the other side.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Ian, I think you will probably want to reiterate that, because not every business idea is a great idea, and not every business, just because you think it's going to work, is going to work. What would you say about that?
Okay, I think just a little bit of 2 seconds of background.
Yeah.
We've been running the hub, a few of us in Croydon, for a couple of years. Originally it was set up just to help small businesses, and we ran a lot of events and what have you. Discovered a lot of people were turning up but not doing anything, and so at that time we then said, okay, let's try and focus on the startup sector, and we started to focus on that about the second quarter last year. And one of the challenges was actually making contact with lots of these people. So although a lot of these startups are coming to events, it's not a big number, and it took us a while to develop the workshops. I'm interested to hear what Emma's doing. The workshops to make contact with them, then to offer them the help. And in the 4, 5, 6 months from then until December, there was about 1,000 people, 1,000 contacted us or went to events, etc. And we've now obviously got their details. And really in January of this year, we're really going to start helping them wherever they were. And then of course it's all shut down. So we will recommence our events I'm interested to know when Emma's starting her events again. And it's people coming to us, and the ideas sometimes will never work. And I've got to say to them after a conversation, do you mind if I give you a bit of honesty? And people say, yes, please, yes, please. And we just say, that's not right. You will not realize that amount of money in a certain time, but here's some suggestions for you. So we try and turn that negative into a positive, and that's normally well received.
Yeah, okay. Ellie, bringing you in here, you must see a lot of that. Talk to us a bit about your experience.
Yeah, definitely. To pick up on Ian's point, a couple of points. Is it the right time to start a business? I think definitely, yeah, grasp this opportunity at the moment, but are all ideas good ideas? Not necessarily. So again, we work with a lot of startups, a lot of entrepreneurs. I think when you have a business idea, especially if it's something you're really passionate about, something you've been working on or thought about for a long time, you have a very considered view of it, and you think it's going to be great. But actually it's really good to get experts in from different fields to give you an objective opinion. And actually you might just need to refine the product or service, or do a couple of tweaks to actually make sure that it's an opportunity that actually can have some longevity, because you want to be able to build and grow the business, and it's how you kind of take it from that initial idea into a fully functioned product or service. And in terms of making use of this time, I think we're working with a lot of entrepreneurs, and you have certain skill sets, which is great, but there's an opportunity to look at embracing maybe other digital skills or embracing new technologies, kind of taking some of this time at the moment. There are so many courses and webinars, and even things like improving your LinkedIn profile or Twitter profile. All those things will actually help you, whatever business you're in, because it will help you kind of increase your business network, which is vital.
Okay, that's really helpful. Emma, I want to ask you, this word entrepreneur gets bandied around, gets used an awful lot. I think we're unmuting each other at the moment, so I'm going to unmute you. That's it. Let's go back to basics. This word entrepreneur, what is an entrepreneur? And is having that sort of fire in your belly and that enthusiasm to start a business enough to start a business? Or what are the other facets that you need to look at?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point. I didn't realise we'd get into psychology quite so soon. But yeah, it's entrepreneur, a French word by origin, and it's a word that not many small business owners use in connection to themselves. So certainly at Enterprise Nation, I mean, the audience of which I can speak is we support businesses that have 0 to 10 employees. So micro businesses, we always refer to our community as founders or small business owners, just because they don't resonate with this term entrepreneur. But what this brings up, actually, I did an interview for an event last week online, and the chap who was running it had said, he said, I used to read your books, your kind of startup books. You kind of give lots of practical advice to people who are starting a business. And he said, what kind of advice are you hearing that business owners need at the moment? And I said, well, from a practical level, it is digital. It's how to do more online. But actually, on a much deeper level, so many small business owners now want to know what is the secret to a resilient mind or just a resilient approach, because for those who want to become an entrepreneur, so who want to grow a scale-up business, a kind of a high-growth business, and of course, one of the great things of starting and growing your own business is you can decide at which rate you want to grow. So if you never want to hire people and you don't want to grow your turnover, that is up to you. But for those that do, and I've written quite a bit on this recently because Enterprise Nation itself became a scale-up company. I run a team, I'm the sole founder. I run a company that's increasingly reliant on technology. And so I've written quite a bit around how you just literally have to not give up. So you have to stay. So in response to the question, Catherine, of kind of what attributes do you need to grow a business? So to start, you definitely need a good idea, surround yourself with advice that the panelists have kind of referenced, and to keep on kind of executing, so follow the basics. The attributes you need to grow a business can be quite different. Much more of an ability to learn from others, this idea of constant improvement, that you need to continually be learning from the best in your industry in terms of how to do things. But I'd say over and above that, it is just this ability to root yourself in why you started in the first place, because that's the thing that keeps you going. So on days, in phases like this, when you kind of think, crikey, customers aren't coming in, how do I take care of my team? Do I need to get one of these Seaballs loans? You've got all these questions going on. The thing that has to keep you going is you questioning to yourself, why did I start this business? Why do I do what I do? And if I still feel passionate about that, I should still keep on going. But I think coming out of coronavirus, there's going to be a lot more talk around those businesses that keep on trading, have probably got, the founder has got the mindset to just say, whatever it takes, I'm just going to keep on building this business or just keep on surviving. So I think it moves from practical things to much more mindset driven in terms of the attributes to grow and become an entrepreneur if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, that's great. Fintan, bring you in on that. Is there something you want to add?
Sorry, something's just come up on my screen.
Sorry, just to interrupt you, Fintan, just to let you know, we are running our confidence survey. For those of you that are watching, if you can tell us how confident you're feeling, we are running this every week. We're trying to monitor the mood. When we ran this yesterday on a webinar that we were running elsewhere, it was quite interesting that actually, whilst we had seen an upturn in positiveness, right now people are feeling a little bit more nervous, which is understandable. We are all currently in a bit of a bubble in that we've all sort of locked down and worked out how we're going to work from home or wherever, and now we're all being challenged to think about how we might start to return to some sort of new normal. So we are sort of seeing perhaps that there is a little bit more nervousness out there at the moment. It'd be interesting to see what those listening from home and watching from home at the moment are seeing. So if you could just take a few minutes to fill in that poll for us. Sorry, Fintan, back to you.
Well, if I could just pick up on that from my own perspective at the own business. I mean, I'm seeing from my clients now that many of us are coming to us because they are about to take that step to follow the government's advice from last week, which is to start thinking about going back to work. In fact, some of them are wanting to rush back to work incredibly quickly. And there are obviously health and safety implications involved with that as well, but that's as a side. But picking up on Emma, and I guess the point being resilience and the ability to keep going. for all businesses, that's the same. I mean, I remember when I set up or took on my franchise, my personal franchise, about 12 years ago, that you actually at some point then reach a point of no return. You're there and you're just going to have to go forward because there is no way back unless you completely start again. Certainly within Startup Croydon, what are we seeing there? A lot of resilience. People have hunkered down. As you know, we've got over 45 offices in the business in the building at Wetherell House, where largely populated with small and recently started up businesses. Many of them have been able to go and work from home. Most of them, we're in touch with nearly all of them, keen to come back soon in some way, but we've been really impressed in the way in which people have reinvented their businesses. And I think you're talking about setting up a new business. Almost everybody now is in one way or another setting up a new business, because if your market itself hasn't changed, you may still be selling to the consumer. Your route to market has almost certainly changed dramatically, and your whole business plan will have gone out of the old business plan will have gone out of the window. And if you're selling on even if you've been selling on online platforms, the services that your clients may need, the priorities will have changed over the course of the last few months as well. So each of your business priorities will change. And I think looking forward, one of the things that we talk about in Startup Croydon in terms of planning your business going forward and building it is thinking about the things, as you've got a bit of extra time perhaps on your hands at the moment, is to think about the things that you would improve in your business going forward when it comes back, or even now, the things that you would stop doing, potentially the things that you would start doing. And if you could get yourself a matrix together of the things that you're going to start to work on, these are the practical small steps that you can take. Give us a call at Startup Croydon if you want to bounce some ideas around us.
I was going to say to all of our panelists, if you want to put your contact details in the chat, then that would be helpful. We will circulate them afterwards to everyone that's watching, that do feel free to do that. I just wanted to pick up on that point about the fact that, first of all, when you start a business, I can relate this to my own experience, you are a little bit naive in that you think it sounds great to start your own business, and you have some sort of ideals about how this is going to give you this better quality of life, and then before you know it, as you become more successful, you do get trapped into moving out of actually just worrying about one or two of you, and suddenly you look around and you think, well, actually now I'm employing a lot of people and I've got large overheads, and is that actually what I wanted? Wasn't actually what I thought about at the beginning, and then you are then stuck with it, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think when you start a business, actually trying to think about where you want it to go, and picking up on Emma's point, that actually not everybody wants to do that, and that's absolutely fine. You can just be a sole trader and just look after yourself, but sometimes you're not in control of that. Would you agree with that, Emma?
I was just going to say a slight, I'd love to give some advice as to how businesses don't necessarily get in that position. So I think if you ever, and again, sorry to be philosophical and psychological about this, I don't know if you've just kind of caught me on the wrong morning, but every morning I follow the Steve Jobs ritual of you look in the mirror and you say, well, you kind of ask yourself, if this was your final day on earth, are you doing the job you should be doing? And Steve Jobs used to do this every day. If this was your final day on earth, are you doing the job you should be doing? And what he used to do is, if he answered no to that on too many times, he knew he was doing the wrong thing in the business, or he needed to change. So I would stress that kind of founders check in with yourself every day. And if you're at a point where you just think, how did this business get to be like this? I'm not enjoying this business. Then just the advice I'd love to offer is, this is where I think it comes to the importance of having a plan, and definitely having a mentor, coach, supporter of someone, because if you always have a plan, and yes, that plan will change and shift depending on kind of what you want for your business and for your life. But I would say if you do ever get to that point in business, revise your plan and maybe look at how you exit the business. And of course, that's the great thing at the moment, is if as the founder, you do feel my time is out, I can't convince myself every day that I'm doing the job I should be doing, then you've got so many options available to you. Selling the companies to your employees, which is becoming incredibly popular at the moment, and I think a lovely succession planning. Handing the business on to a family member, maybe not so popular if the family don't want it, but I would say at those points, always check in with mentors, advisors, and just kind of check where you are on your journey, just to make sure that you're happy. Because The thing about running a business is, I know I keep on talking a lot about sole founders today, but if you are the sole founder of the company, which you kind of don't readily have anyone to kind of knock ideas around with, or to kind of do the downers or the uppers with, I would say it's so critical to get that support team around you so that you can just keep yourself as motivated as possible. Because particularly at the moment, and then I'll kind of finish on this, is since coronavirus, of course, everyone has sent their teams home. And I'm doing things with the Enterprise Nation team. I send them an email every morning. We have stand up on a Monday. We have team drinks on a Friday. But as the founder, you are the one that always has to be smiling. You have to go into those team meetings positive, smiling, upbeat. You know, this is what the company is doing. And so at times you may need to just offset that with somebody else, but you've got to keep yourself high to keep the business performing. So I would just say, if you're in a place where you think this is not where I want to be with my business, please go and seek support to kind of come up with a plan as to how you can make it work for you.
That's really helpful. Ellie, I'm going to bring you in here because I'm sure you've seen some of that. And I just wanted, well, actually, we've just had another poll pop up. We're just asking those of you that are watching this up this morning, are you currently considering starting a business? We'd like to know whether you are. I would encourage those that are listening to also chat to us this morning. We do want to give the opportunity for you to ask questions. It might just be a comment that you put in the chat. It'd be great to hear any of your experiences. Maybe you've just started a business, maybe you started prior to this lockdown and now you're thinking, was that the right thing to do? Or maybe you're just considering it now because you might be furloughed and you might be thinking, actually, what's the end result of this going to be? Is this an opportunity to think about starting a business right now? I just wanted to just also pick up on that point that actually right now many businesses are having to pivot, and actually that's a great opportunity to think about maybe stopping some stuff that maybe wasn't that profitable and worthwhile before, but you were sort of stuck in that rut of doing it because it's what you always did. This is a real opportunity to stand back from your business and think, what are the things that I want to continue moving forward? And if that means you almost have to go back a few steps to be able to build it again, then I think that's a positive opportunity at the moment. Ellie, what are you finding with the people you're talking to?
Yeah, definitely. So to pick up on a couple of points that both you, Catherine, and Emma raised, I think in terms of if you are a sole trader or founder of a business, it is important to have a really robust network. So it could be a business network, it could be a personal network, but somebody, a support group that you can go to for help and advice and just a general sounding board. I think there's a real temptation when you do look to start your own business to do everything yourself. You know, you want to do it all, and maybe because of cost as well, you feel like you have to do everything. And there are definite areas that you should bring in the experts. You know, you definitely need financial experts unless you're a trained accountant. You should definitely look at getting some legal expertise in terms of contracts, and if you're going to employ anybody, and just kind of get those but that's in order. In terms of being a great time to pivot, yeah, I think when you have a business plan, you always need to have a business plan. It's always good to go back to that, because this is an unprecedented time, but even so, you know, it's always good to go back and revisit and actually see if you are on track. And if you're not on track, why are you not on track? It could be down to the environment. It could be down to the fact that there's a spin-off to your product or service that could be more relevant for the current climate. So just keep revisiting and kind of see what you can stop, what you should be carrying on doing, and actually are there areas that you can start to help kind of develop your business and grow that even further. And we're working with companies that, you know, something that Jane said earlier, that there is a lot of doom and gloom at the moment. And I've been speaking to people over the whole period, and people have gone through kind of waves of emotion, waves of doom and gloom, and then you get a bright spark, you're like, okay, we can do this. And actually, there are a lot of positives out there. There are companies still hiring. There are businesses and business areas where they're doing really well, e-commerce, e-tail, gaming. You know, so there are opportunities. You could look at your business and actually think, could I venture out, or could I partner with somebody in one of these areas? You know, webinars, look at what we're doing now. It is a new way of working, and actually we talk about going back to the office. A lot of people want to scramble back to the office. I've always worked remotely a couple of days anyway, not with the whole family in tow, so that's the challenge. But I've always done a couple of days at home and a couple of days in town, and I think a lot of businesses will now do that. So there's so many opportunities, but it can be quite hard to kind of find them when you're listening to all the kind of doom and gloom. But collaboration is key, and tools out there. LinkedIn is fantastic in terms of finding out people to connect with. Enterprise Nation, I recently signed up to that, and it's been a great source of, I signed up about a month or so ago, Emma, and it's been a fantastic source in terms of looking at other companies that you could admire, that companies that you could want to collaborate with or emulate, and just reach out, because people are willing to help. That's the thing, there's no such thing as a silly question, and people are willing to help and collaborate.
So I do have a question, which isn't a silly question, and it's sort of very basically asking, so we're in a recession. Is now the right time to start a business when you're in a recession? Who'd like to answer that? Looking at maybe at Emma?
Oh, sorry, I was just unmuted. Yeah, very happy to pick that one up. I guess, first of all, quite often business owners are influenced by other people who've done it. So you'll be seeing lots of media reports at the moment of the amazing businesses that have started in previous recessions. So from the UK, TransferWise, Just Eat, Uber started in a recession. So first of all, loads of businesses have done it. And second, just the reason why I think it is a great time to start a business is people are spotting gaps in the market. So people are definitely identifying, actually, is there a market here that I could build a business in? Assets are cheap. This is not always kind of a great thing to say, but if, for instance, and as I say, I have to be careful in how I phrase this, but if your business that you want to start depends on you getting some kind of high street presence, you are going to find in the next couple of months that these are assets that come at a much cheaper cost than they did pre-coronavirus. So I don't mean to sound like kind of vultures coming in to kind of take on underpriced assets, but you can get things cheaper, whether that be space, talent, etc. And just the other thing is, which we've covered so much on this call, but enabling technology is at its height at the moment. So, as I say, Facebook just announced this morning that Facebook and Instagram have opened something called Shops. Admittedly, it's in the US, but hopefully it will be coming here. So just this ability for, you can sell to like 1 billion people now if you have a Facebook business account. You can do all this from the comfort of home. You can do it with a cheap internet connection. So I would just say the reason why it is a good time to start is market gaps are out there. Technology is very affordable and easy to use. And as I say, for kind of the assets and resource that you need, it has become quite available. So now is a good time to do it. But just steps to take, come up with an idea, research that market, write a plan. And actually, just if it's helpful, we produced a startup kit in January with an organisation called Startup Loans, which is a government body that lends out money, and we've made the startup kit free of charge. So if you go onto Amazon, you can download it on Kindle, 170 pages of just all the steps that you need to take. And I think it was Ellie or Jane who said, I think it was Jane who said it, that starting a business is all about taking loads of little steps. So if you have got time available to you at the moment, I would definitely suggest you start taking those steps.
I'm going to bring Fintan in because I'm aware that Startup Croydon is part of your courses that you run, and also the fact you've got office space. And I'm not going to suggest that your office space is going to be cheaper because we're currently where we're at. But I guess there's 2 points here. First of all, in a recession, you've got to be probably realistic about what money there is out there and plan accordingly. And I think I'm right in saying that through Startup Croydon, you can be part of a course that would help you with that business planning. That's probably quite pivotal, being realistic about what the appetite or what the commercial value might be right now. It might be that you might have to take a slower approach to making money right now, but it's sort of building for a long time. And then the second question is just around this idea that office space availability. We are hearing a lot in the press about the practicalities of having a shared office space. Hot desking is that a thing of the past for the foreseeable future? So if you are working from home, what are those options that are available to you? So a bit of a double question there, Fintan, for you.
Okay. Well, let's deal with accommodation first, and thank you for the trail. And yes, there are some offices available if anybody's interested. And the benefit is that they are smaller office units, and the way that we price, because we're aimed at small businesses who are starting up, is on a monthly basis. People are on monthly contracts, so not having to commit to longer leases. And I think Emma would probably agree that probably now is not the time to try and commit to longer term commitments, because you'll be able to respond and take more advantage of as deals as they come along. And I don't think it's being a vulture. I think it's just about being prudent about keeping your costs to a minimum. And if you are committed already as a small business to some of those overheads, then perhaps it's a good time to go and have a chance of renegotiation with your suppliers, or deferring in some way or another. So that element there. In terms of the small steps that businesses and how we can help them, the 3-day course, when it is running, does take everybody through every aspect of the business, including building their financial model, and also, as your colleague Joe knows, helping people get that marketing plan together. Finance is important, because at the end of the day, you're going to need money to keep going, and you're going to have to buy stuff now, and you're not going to get money for it until sometime further downstream. And that's the whole essence of cash flow. So one of the key things that we do advise people to do very early on in Startup Croydon is to take some advice from an accountant, to have some additional advice as to how that business plan might actually stack up, so that you don't find yourself in the short term running out of cash, which will just bring your business, whether you're wanting to be a not-for-profit or a profit centre or a profit-making organisation, you still have to have cash to keep yourself going, and you shouldn't lose sight of that element.
And just on this question around, is hot desking a thing of the past?
It's interesting. I think in the short term, the government advice would be to try and avoid workstation sharing. But I think what you may find is that people will stop wanting to travel into the centre of London. And from a Croydon perspective, that will be very useful to us who have smaller office space available here. People, I think, will still want to get out of the house, particularly where your workspace at the moment is shared, perhaps with your children, and with others trying to do schoolwork and whatever. And maybe we'll see the rise of cubicle type places or private places that you can book smaller spaces inside office blocks. And that's something that we're certainly looking at Startup Croydon at the moment, is the flexibility of our office space.
Okay, that's great. I'm bringing you back in here in terms of the clients, the mums that you're dealing with, and dads, I should say, but predominantly mums. What are you finding their needs are going to be moving forward? Do you find many of your clients are actually happy to work at home, or are they all looking, sometimes to get out of the house? And how do you see that working moving forward?
Yeah, well, interestingly, the women that we support, they do love the network. They love being able to walk out the house, put on some work clothes. I think just that transition from being mum to actually being a professional is something that they really embrace. So it's interesting, even though I think lots of people, we talk about flexible working, there will be more of that, and that's brilliant. I think for lots of people, it's actually, particularly for the parents that I work with, it's actually sort of walking away from the house and actually being a professional again and networking with other people. Because I think, as Ellie and Emma has touched on, the networking and the coaching and the mentoring that you can get from other people, often doing that face to face, you can get sort of a real vibe and an energy as well. And I certainly know that when we run our conferences, if you've got 10, 20, 50, 100 women in a room, the connections they can make can be sort of life-changing, because there can be collaboration and it can build confidence. One of the things that we talk about is, what is your biggest challenge and what is the solution? And when people talk about their challenge to starting a business, so it might be confidence, for example, you physically see other people relax in the room because they think, that's like me, I'm not the only one. I think for human beings, but particularly parents and mothers, it can be quite isolating when you have a baby and you think you're the only one that feels a particular way and everybody out there is doing everything marvellously and there's no problems at all. So I think even though we are in a sort of chapter at the moment where we're enclosed, I think when we do get back to some normality, whatever that looks like, I think the networking, as much as technology can support that, personally, I think that the face-to-face and the being outside with people is something that is premium.
We do all definitely miss that, and we're obviously all hopeful that at some point we might be able to get back. And in the meantime, I guess we're all making do with this type of format, which is, doing its job to a degree. But I think you are right that sort of opportunity to leave your house, put on some different clothes, and actually not just be at home all the time is definitely something that I think we will all be looking forward to do. Emma, I've got a question. It's not a question actually, it's just a request for you to share again the details about the startup kit on Amazon, and so that is available by going onto Amazon and searching
startup kit. So if you just put startup kit Emma Jones and then it says free version on Amazon Kindle, you can download it direct from there.
Okay, that's great, lovely. Ian, coming to you in terms of those those 1,000 people that you've had interest from Croydon, which is great. I mean, we would always say that Croydon is a great entrepreneurial borough. Over the years it's gone out of its way. Emma, I know, going back quite a few years, we were involved in working together on some stuff back in I don't know when that would have been, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. But as a borough, we have always been very much about encouraging that element. Ian, what can you add to this in terms of those people that you've signed up to you at the moment?
Well, I think a couple of comments in terms of the question, is it a good time to start? There are many, many, many people who have to start now, and they're motivated, they've lost a job, or they've suddenly realized that that's the way forward. So, and they're the easier ones to work with because you can share experience with them. There's also the other section. We seem to get contacted by a lot of pre-startups, and the events that we ran. I mean, we were doing, in January, we did 6 different events, all different kinds. And there are people, I'm thinking of starting something, oh, well, you actually came to an event 9 months ago, and they reappear. So there seems to be quite a section of people who are just sort of poodling along, and they've got an idea, it's in the background, and some of them are using the current climate as an excuse for not doing it. And say, well, actually, you came to an event 7 months ago, a startup event, why aren't you doing something? And it's interesting to know how one handles those, or maybe they will just never, ever do anything. And maybe they're part of the, or they do something and then don't really work it. I think the other thing is, again, which Emma said, is actually getting advice or getting a mentor, okay? And for all these startups, we will say to them, get at least 2 or 3 people to ask advice from. Bounce your idea off 2 or 3, not just 1, but 2 or 3. I mean, I've had somebody come to me fairly recently, and a very bright young guy setting up a business, he'd been in business, and he's starting off to do something in social media. And the line he was going down was bonkers. I mean, it was just complete. Where did you get that? Oh, I got that from my mentor. and I said, because I knew him quite well, I was able to say, do you mind if I'm honest? So it is to get advice or a mentor, or at least 2 or 3 people you can go and bounce an idea off. Not just at the beginning, but on an ongoing basis. I've got it started. Can you tell me what it's about? Yeah. And people say at these events, well, where do I get a mentor? I say, well, you come and talk to us, and we will point you at 2 or 3 other people. Go and talk to other people to get their advice, and then you take it from there.
And mentoring can take the shape of many forms, can't it? So it could be just talking to someone casually at a networking event who's had more experience. It could be a family member that maybe has some experience, or it could be a business mentor that's out there already. I think, Ellie, just bringing you in here, in terms of, this mentoring opportunity, is that something that you would be advocating?
Yeah, definitely. As I was saying, it's really vital to have that strong network around, and definitely have some business mentors. I think there are different mentors for different things. I think we touched upon it earlier when we were talking about your own personal well-being, and when you are launching or even running your own business, it is a it's a constant journey, and it can be quite mentally challenging. So I think it's good to have whether it's can be someone from a well-being perspective, or just making sure that you've got that sounding board. And then in terms of business, it's definitely worth having qualified people that you can go to who have been through the experience, who run successful businesses, who understand challenges, who you might be looking to expand internationally if somebody's had experience doing that. So it's really good to have a robust network of people, either qualified mentors or just a robust network that you can call upon. Another group that I've co-founder of is it's called Digital Leading Ladies Group, and there are over 200 women in the network who have, some are self-employed, some have their own businesses, some work within corporates. So everyone's on a different stage on their journey, but we're able to come together and offer advice and help, which is really important.
Yeah. Emma, coming back to you, I'm sure mentoring is a big part of Enterprise Nation. How does that work in terms of what your offer is?
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by this topic, actually, because our yesterday webinar was how to start and grow an online coaching business. And we had a brilliant woman come and speak for us called Rachel Mallows. And a couple of the questions were, what's the difference between coaching and counselling? What's the difference between coaching and mentoring? And I learned so much from her yesterday that essentially, and I am coming around to kind of where Enterprise Nation helps, Rachel was saying that a coach is someone who helps you look forward towards a goal, so kind of helping you deliver a goal. A counsellor is someone who looks back at the history to determine kind of why we're here today. And a mentor is someone who is more just with you for the foreseeable, so not necessarily focused on a particular goal, which is more coaching, but just kind of someone who is there in your surroundings. And actually on Enterprise Nation, we don't have a category of mentors, mainly because the way our platform works is we connect small businesses with advisors, where for advisors, their business is in advising, so they charge for that advice. And of course, so many mentors are happy to give their time free of charge, and therefore we haven't up until now had a category of mentors, which is something actually pre-coronavirus we were re-evaluating to go on the platform. So we can connect small businesses with more experts. So it was Finton who said get a good accountant. We have lots of ICAW accountants on the platform, digital marketing experts, etc. So I think as a business owner, we're big advocates for just surrounding yourself with lots of different support throughout your journey. So practical advice that you need from the experts like accountants, lawyers, social media pros, but also having this kind of mentor type person. And just a bit of advice for anyone who's listening and kind of thinks, oh, you know, what shall I look for in a mentor? Is we do think there's two types. There's one who's kind of the industry veteran, so someone who's really built an amazing business in your industry from whom you want to learn based on how they did it. So that's kind of one form. But actually, I feel the most amazing type of mentor is a person who's a really good listener, because as a business owner, you have pretty much all the answers to the questions that you've got. You just need to talk them out. So sitting with a mentor to kind of say, I'm thinking of hiring this person, but will they mess with the culture of the company? You know, we were thinking of raising money to go into international territory. Should we do that? Because if we do, does it put strain? And literally, you see business owners do this. As they talk it out, they come up with their own solutions. But the person who is there just sitting and listening, that can be a really kind of valuable mentor. So if you can, kind of arm your business toolbox with having a little bit of all of those.
Coming to you, Finton, because I'm aware that you've got a sort of non-executive board of, you know, some people who are effectively, you know, stepping up and helping out Startup Croydon, almost in that mentoring role, aren't you, really? And I think you do offer something similar.
Well, we've been very fortunate. You mentioned we've been around for 35 years, and our founder, Geoffrey Dove, is still one of our founders, is still very much part of the network. He's not on a day-to-day basis, but he's there and available to businesses, and is always very keen and coming to discuss issues they may have. But we have accountants, we have bankers, we have financiers, we have HR people, all available through the board and through John and the team to give I guess if your definition, Emma, was that it's to be there for the journey, as it were, there have been so many businesses who have just been there and come along with us, and we're there for them, and they keep coming back. So that's been one of the most rewarding parts of being involved with Startup Croydon over the years. Good.
Just, Emma, picking up on that webinar you mentioned yesterday, I'm interested to know, is that available online for people to watch back on?
Yeah. So they're called Lunch and Learns, and we record all of them. So yeah, if you just go on to enterprisenation.com and just go into the webinar section, there's probably about 98 of them there now. So please take your pick.
So
Can I
you
just say, this is Ian. Emma, I actually plugged into one of your webinars based in Solihull yesterday.
Oh, that was a local meetup.
Yeah. But because I knew you were on the show today, I just actually plugged into it. A guy called Mike, and was doing it. I mean, absolutely tremendous, good vibe, good people came on that. It was very good.
There's nothing nicer than getting good, positive feedback. I mean, we also get criticism, so we have to take that. But thank you, Ian. That's great to know.
So we're now the south of England. I live in Sussex. The south for your Solihull group.
I think, you know,
the geography.
I think that is, you know, one of the great things that's come out of the situation is that we're no longer restricted to our immediate geography. And actually we can network and go and talk to anybody. And we had somebody on a webinar a couple of weeks ago who ran a sort of a teaching drama school for young people. And she's had to completely pivot and move it all online, which has obviously been quite challenging. But one of the opportunities is that, you know, she runs a summer school, and she's just announced a summer school, and she's suddenly got people from the USA signing up to her summer school. And she was totally astounded. She thought she was just a local little company offering this, you know, to her immediate environment. And suddenly this has opened up this whole international opportunity. Which is a real opportunity. And as you say, Ian, being able to go and network with people, not just in your immediate borough. I'm going to give a shout out to the event that we run, the big breakfast, which we've been running for sort of 8 years. And, you know, we many of us have got up very early on a Thursday morning and trundled along to IKEA over the years to take part in that speed networking opportunity. And you know, actually now we're doing it online. And actually, do you know what? It's really great not having to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and drive to IKEA. And actually, I do miss the hash browns, but apart from that, it is a really good opportunity to meet everybody. So I'd give a shout out for that. It's Wednesday today, which means tomorrow is the big breakfast, which will be back on this platform. So do sign up to that if you haven't done so already. We are coming to the end of our session this morning, so I want to just come back to our panelists one last time and just ask you to come up with your top tip. It could be your top tip, your top 3 tips, but if someone was going to take something away from today, what would you sort of give as your sort of top tip? Let's come to you, Jane, first.
Okay, I suppose my top tip would be think about your business idea and make sure that it's the paracetamol to your customer's headache. So think about what is the pain that your customers are feeling right now and how can you soothe that?
And that's a virtual paracetamol, so you should be able to get it without any problem. So that's absolutely great. Thank you for that. Over to you, Ian.
Right, and I actually wrote it down in anticipation. It really says, excuse me, read it, and echoing what Emma said, write down your plan. Ask advice from 2 or 3 business advisors, not just one. And keep asking for advice every step of the way.
Great, thank you for that, Ian. Finton?
It has to echo that exactly, which is that you'll have a whole load of enthusiastic people. Your mum and your family probably think that it's the best idea since sliced bread, but make sure you have a reality check and come to someone like us at Startup Croydon, and we'll just give you that reality check, and the accountant as well that's got to make money.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Finton. Ellie?
I would say definitely know when to call in the experts. As I mentioned earlier, when you're launching a business, it's tempting to say, I can do it all and I want to do it all. If you're not a marketeer, employ someone who can help you with marketing. Again, with social media, again, in terms of legal, HR, finance, there are core areas that it's worth investing in professional help, because that will help with the longevity of your business.
That's lovely, thank you. And Emma, over to you.
Mine's a real cop-out. I'm going to say listen to these panellists. My top tip is listen to these experts. But no, I think they've been brilliant. So from a startup perspective, which I know is kind of the theme of the session, I'd say just do it, take those small steps. And for anyone who is looking to grow their business throughout this, I would say it takes longer than you think to grow a strong and sustainable business, but do keep at it because it's well worth it.
I would agree with that, despite the many bumps in the road, some larger than others, that might hit you. It is, you have to be in it for the long term. But thank you. Thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to those that are watching. I think one of the messages that's come out today is the importance of collaboration. the importance of taking this time to talk to others, to listen to others, and to learn from others. And that's obviously what we're trying to do with this webinar program. We will be back next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we'll see an important time in terms of our high streets. It is expected, I think the Retail Association are saying that from the 1st of June, we could have up to 80% of the retail shops back open again. What does that mean for you as a business owner? What does it mean for you as a shopper? And how is the local authority in Croydon going to handle that in terms of social distancing? It's a massive topic. We're hoping to pick that up again next week to give some further help and guidance. So please do join us next Wednesday at 10. But for now, thank you again to everybody. Stay safe and have a really good Wednesday. The sun is shining. Okay, thank you. Bye.